Hello, ladies. I'm honored to have you with me today. Isn't this a wonderful era to live in where you don't have to neglect your house to come and listen to something about homemaking or housekeeping that may need a little inspiration, a little encouragement, and you can stay home and listen as you work. I have a lot of favorite things I like to watch, but I have to watch them, so I need something to hear while I do these things that are stationary. And in the olden days, our mothers used to listen to the radio while they were doing things where you would have to stay in one place, such as washing dishes. And so I thought, wouldn't it be nice to hear somebody talk about homemaking and have a variety of subjects to talk about besides the house? And of course, I'm a veteran homeschooler, so I will be bringing some of my old books and talking to you about some of the things that we had. And today I want to show you my teacup, and the tradition is I show you my teacup and maybe a book, and then you go ahead and go to work, and you don't have to sit here and watch anything because there isn't anything to watch. Now today I'm going to show you one of these teacups from Home Goods, which is by Stitch Call, Gracie Bone China, and Coastline Imports. You can look up Coastline Imports on the web and sometimes find some of these, but they're actually quite inexpensive if you get them at Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, or Ross. This one has lovely birds on it. Isn't that nice? And on the inside there's a little flower. And I like these bowl-shaped cups. I drink Yorkshire Gold, and I love its mellow taste. We don't use anything in it. In my ladies' Bible class, they don't put anything in their tea, so they like the Yorkshire Gold because it's so mild and so smooth and doesn't have a tannic acid taste. And I want to show you the saucer that went with it because it's that beautiful blue, beautiful sky blue, and goes with my sweater that I got at Walmart a few years ago, and I think it's one of the Faded Glory brands. I don't know if they're still carrying that, but it was one of my favorite. There was a lot of cotton and natural fibers in Faded Glory, and I especially liked Faded Glory from Walmart for children. And in the background I have put my little collection of blue teacups that I have that are light blue, and it looks like there are 6 of them there. And so I want to show you one book, and then I'll let you get on with your work. I don't want to interfere too much with that. And this one was the first tea book I ever got. Was I ever thrilled? And it was when it came out about the time as Victoria magazine, and this was 1987, and both of them started in 1987, and the tea books began, and it was at the same time that there were many Laura Ashley fabrics and prints and chintzes, and it's just such a delight. We hadn't seen anything like that just coming out of the 1960s and 70s. We hadn't really seen any of these precious little posy prints and natural florals, and so it was such a thrill. So I want to, this is called Taking Tea, and it has original recipes in it, and it's the one that had the carrot sandwiches, and grated carrots, you mixed them with mayonnaise or cream cheese or something like that to hold it together and spread them on bread. And everyone I have served these grated carrot sandwiches have just loved them, gone home to make their own. And so also I want to read to you the contents. This book was so precious to me, and it took a few years for tea to catch on and more books coming out, and eventually I got a lot more. But this was the one that I loved the best, and I always go back to. It's just precious to me. It cost $20 at the time, 1987. And Mr. S had been to a mall in Dallas, Texas, when we lived in a little country town in Texas. And knowing my interest in tea, he bought it and brought it home for me. And I thought it was such an expense, and it was so precious. And I wanted to read you the contents because you probably wouldn't have to pay $20 for it now. It's just a wonderful book. Here are the different types of teas. Afternoon tea, tea for two, nursery tea, Victorian tea, and every chapter has a beautiful picture in it. High tea, garden party tea, farmhouse tea, exotic Caribbean tea, Chinese tea, American tea, 5 o'clock French tea, African farm tea, Moroccan mint tea, Russian evening tea, Indian tea, Japanese tea. Oh my goodness, did I ever have fun with this, and I'm going to start over and start using these recipes again. Now, I just want to show you one of the pictures across from the page with the carrot sandwiches. And I would look at these pictures and say, well, I can do that, because it wasn't anything rare. There were things like this you could get, and I furnished my tea table with things I found in the local antique stores and Goodwills, and I was very happy with what I had. But as time went on, more things were available that were new, and tea strainers and things like that. So I wanted to also read to you one page in here, and it's called Australians Billy Tea. And as you know, my family went to Australia as immigrants in 1967 under a special program put on by the Australian government, and they were trying to lure large families, and there were 9 of us, and I was the oldest of the 7 children, and we went to Australia in 1967 and settled there. And to this day, my family still resides there, and their children and grandchildren. So I wanted to read this to you. I'll show you again the picture, and I will try to put this also on the post. And I don't have comments here on YouTube, and I have embedded this in my blog, so you can go over there, please, and watch it and read a comment, and you'll be sure that it will work on the blog. So it's called Australia's Billy Tea. The Australians are tremendously fond of a good cup of tea, and drink it in cafes near the Melbourne Opera or by campfires in the outback. When it is taken in the dry and scruffy country inhabited by bushmen, it's called Billy Tea. The swagmen, as the inhabitants of the bush are called, it's probably because of the swags that they carry everything in, drink their tea in a billy, which is a cylindrical tin cup with a separate lid. Now, I don't know about that. I thought the billy was the pot that was hanging there, and that was heated, so I don't know if this lady got her facts right or not. And the tea, a wire mesh infuser, in a wire mesh infuser, and the billy are carried in a knapsack known as a Matilda. Water is boiled in the billy over an open fire, and a good amount of tea is placed in the wire ball and dipped into the boiling water. The resulting brew is hearty and taken with sugar or an occasional gum tree leaf for additional flavor. Sometimes, that would be eucalyptus. Sometimes damper bread accompanies billy bread. Now, I was familiar with damper bread because we used to make it on the homestead in Alaska, and in other places it was part of the culture. So although Australians claim it as their own, I think it was known in other places. It is made from unleavened wheat flour and is mixed with water and kneaded until spongy. The dough is placed in a heavy cast iron pot, then buried in the ground with hot coals from the fire. One theory as to why so much tea is consumed by the swagmen holds that it helps to wash down the chewy and rather tasteless damper bread. Well, yeah, we had that kind of bread growing up. Sometimes when we lacked ingredients, my mother would just put together what we had, and it was pretty tasteless. But yeah, you could always wash it down with tea. So now this is another picture of, I believe this is somewhere in Australia. This was 1987, and they were just getting interested in publishing things about tea. So I wanted you to know about this book, Taking Tea, by Andrea Israel, with original recipes by Pamela Mitchell, and I will put that on the post so you can see more about it. Now, I want to talk a little bit, but then I will go back to books, because I do have a couple of homeschool books in the end that you might be interested in. Maybe if you're not homeschooled or not interested in homeschooled, you'll want to click it off then. But these aren't really books from homeschool companies. These are books I used that I found, because when I began homeschooling in the 80s, there wasn't a vast amount of homeschool curriculum, and we did get our books from Christian schools. But then they developed curriculum, which I think wasn't as venturous or as much fun, because it kind of limited everybody, and I think they got into being too, I don't know what it was. It just kind of took the freedom away from homeschooling when they developed curriculum, because now people thought they had to have boxed curriculum and so much of this and so much of that, whereas I just went out and found things, and I used the Dover catalog quite a bit because they had nice books with information in them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about appearance because that's what we usually start out with here is appearance. So if you're having trouble getting started, I might suggest to you that you go ahead and get your shower, get dressed, get your hair ready, and feel a little bit more like a human being and somebody that has a purpose. And somehow, if you could dress as though you were going to meet somebody important or go somewhere important, and just think of that. Get a picture in your mind of doing something important, and then focus it on your home. This is an important place. It's like being in, every day is a little different, isn't it? The light comes in a little different. The season changes. The day changes. No 2 days are alike. And so every day you're in a place where, I think I mentioned it in the previous video about you're living, what is it called when someone takes care of a place and they also live there. They're caregivers or caretakers. And so really you're a caretaker, but the place belongs to you. But it's sometimes a little fun to think of what it would have been like to have a job in your own home, and kind of change your perspective a little bit. And you see things a little bit differently, and you might arrange them a little differently because of the presentation is so important. And so this, I hope that the talk today will encourage those who feel like they want to overcome something like laziness or dullness or discouragement, and I hope I can give you a perspective that's a little bit different. And I did start out with the teacup for that reason, because I think it's really important to treat yourself to a nice teacup. I don't believe in letting them sit in the shelf and nobody touching them. We get them out and use them, and if they break, there's more where that came from. The older ones are not the best. They are not the best. The new ones I like much better, and I'm experienced with teacups, and sometime I will bring a little brush out and show you how to clean them, and maybe even show some teapots sometime. So I think it's really important to treat yourself to a very fine cup of tea while you make your list. And make your list of things that urgently need to be done first, and then things you'd like to do second. And things that you like to do can be your motivation. If I get this urgent job done, then I'm going to sit down and do this. And so you give a lot of freedom at home, but also a lot of responsibility. So don't let anyone ever make you feel bad or put you down because they think that you don't do anything. If you're an experienced homemaker, you can tell them that you do something. So it's very important to get your personal appearance ready and look in the mirror and like what you see. And I know a lot of us are, we are busy beating ourselves because of some opportunities we missed, or because maybe sometimes we didn't act the way we should have, or we just weren't all there. And so that can also prevent you from getting up and doing something with yourself. Maybe you just don't want to look at yourself. But I would suggest that you do, because you're a precious, precious creation by God, and you need to show some appreciation for that. And that is your way to serve God back, is to do something about your appearance. So the very thing, when you get discouraged, one of the first things that goes is your appearance. That's a sign. And they kind of interact together. The very thing that would stop you, the very thing that you stop doing, such as taking care of your appearance when you get discouraged, is the very thing that would lift you up. And it's the same with your home. The very thing that would keep your mind active and happy, such as cleaning up, sorting through things, getting things for the home, and even possibly improving its appearance, those very things are things that we give up when we're discouraged. We just don't see it anymore. We don't feel it. And those very things are the ones that would cure us. Isn't that interesting? So sometimes you just need somebody to help you along a little bit, and that's why I'm talking. So the very thing we stop doing is often the very thing that cures the pattern and the problem of dullness and laziness and discouragement. So at least get dressed and fix yourself up as if you were expecting to go somewhere or expecting someone to come here. Now, the other day, I had a little fun with my home because everyone was gone. And I had most of the day free. to be at home, and I sat here and looked around and thought, well, this is one of these narrow sort of, what would you call, ranch style homes that are just one long strip. And in a way, it's like a double wide manufactured home. But a lot of the homes built in the 60s were like this. And I got to looking around at some of the trains. One of my Mr. S's favorite things to do in the evening is go turn on a train ride on YouTube. And he has to put his feet up a certain amount of time during the day. And he'll put his feet up and he'll go on this train ride, because you can get these videos that just actually make you feel like you're on the train. And I got to looking at some of these trains, and they had a dining room, and they had places to sit. There was kind of like a little lounge room, and then besides the little bedrooms, I forget what those are called. They're not, are they staterooms, or are they berths, or are they I've forgotten. I'm confused about the difference between a train and a ship, I guess. But I got to walking through my house, and when the weather is real cold, I'll go for a walk through my house, and I'll go several times and try to make it 10 minutes and walk really fast. And it's kind of nice to have a long house, because you can walk through and back and down a hall and back, and kind of circle around the living room, go back down. And I got to thinking, I wonder if this is anything like that train, and it felt like it was. So I was walking around thinking and picturing in my mind that I was on a train, and it was so much more interesting for some reason. And as I made myself a cup of tea and sat down in the little lounge room and looked out the window, and of course it's not moving, but there is scenery and there are cars going by. So on this country road, there are cars going by to their country homes. So I just thought that was interesting. And also, I thought of it as a retreat. Do you know, when I'm sitting down doing my, catching up on all my paperwork, writing letters, or to my grandchildren, or writing other things, then it becomes a writer's retreat. How nice! I went to the writer's retreat. If I want to draw a picture, I think, or paint, I think, oh, I'm going to go to the artist's retreat. And so your home can be many different things, and it's so precious and so unique and so valuable. There's so much value in it that I don't even think we have tapped value in it. I wish more members of the Lord's Church would be interested, women would be interested in the Titus 2 concept of guarding and guiding the home and being there, just being there, even without children. I think it's really important for you to be there. And the other day, I wasn't here, and a package was supposed to have been delivered, but the delivery person didn't leave it. And so I was very sad that I had not been here. So I missed out on a lot of things too when you're not here. And so at least get dressed and fix yourself up and think of your home as somewhere special. And if you're bored with it, just think of it as somewhere else. I love changing the colors, rearranging things, and giving it a different look. And of course, I told you in the last video that Mr. S told me as soon as we got married, since you're the one that's going to be here most of the time, you paint it the color you want, and you fix it up the way you want. I'll let you be in charge of that, because that freed him up to do the work that he needed to do. And so he doesn't want to stand over me and monitor me, and I am capable. And I think it's really important you become capable so that he will have confidence in you. And I don't think it's really healthy for a man to stay in the house and boss the woman around and just kind of hover over what she's doing and monitor everything. That's silly. He needs to be busy with his work. And also, I wanted to add something about health while I'm talking, because I'm going to go into homemaking now. I think I've done much about the appearance. I said in the last video, dress in a way that makes you happy, makes you smile, makes you, you know, what I do, I've got a lot of old clothes and I want to wear them out, and I'd love to replace them all. But as I dress in each one, I say, I'm so thankful I got to have this, and I start to feeling a little more thankful. It changes your perspective on things when you want something a little bit more. So now, I want to add a little bit about food, because I wanted to talk to you about health a little bit and the salad. What I am doing recently for my ladies' Bible class, for my family, is we have a salad before every meal. and even breakfast. Have you ever thought of that? We used to have these recipe cards, and it had a breakfast salad on one of the recipe cards. I believe it was an old Betty Crocker card file with these glossy pictures on it. My food always looks more messy than the picture, but it was a breakfast salad, and it contained in those days you couldn't get, prepared salad, bag salads or anything. You had to cut your own everything, and so it was just deliciously fresh. And if you had a little garden, it tasted wonderful. But we've been having salads with our breakfast. So I keep a big bowl of salad, fresh cut salad that I make myself, and I keep it in the fridge. I get it out in the morning. In a couple of days it'll be gone and won't stay fresh too long anyway. And we eat it with whatever we're having for breakfast, and we feel so much better and so much healthier. And I would like to talk to you a little bit about salad, but I need a little more information. My husband has a naturopath doctor that cares for him and has recommended he eat salads, and it had something to do with what it actually did for you. And so I want to get the facts before I start blabbing off about something I don't know. Another thing I want to talk to you about in homemaking, especially this prevents, I always talk about preventing boredom and preventing discouragement because of the fact, and I don't want ladies coming here and thinking, well, if that's all it is, I don't want to be a homemaker, because here's what the problem is. Any job, if it doesn't have any kind of variety with it, will become very stale. And so the homemaking job, we need to prevent it from being stale and dull and discouraging, because we are serving others. There's a spiritual aspect to it. We are leading others to Christ and to a higher code of living, and we are also being examples. So that's why I say that we have to avoid at all costs letting it depress you, letting it get dull. And the way to prevent that is to keep looking for improvement and for variety. Now this can happen anywhere, but it's especially important that it not happen in the home. So I would say the first thing you have to do, whether you live in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, is ignore the weather. Now weather is wonderful, isn't it, when it's the kind you like? But what if it's the kind you don't like? Well, you have to just get your mind off of it and go ahead and follow your little list and do that work. You'll find yourself so much happier. I know I do when I'm not looking out at the weather. And if it gets to where I don't like it, whether it's too dry and ugly out there, or too hot, or too cold and or dreary and icky looking, I will close all the curtains. I will cover all the windows. I don't want to see it. I only want to see what I want to see, and I want to keep my mind on things that are positive and high. So I always try to avoid letting the weather control my mood. That is a hard one. That's a very hard one, but you don't let the weather control your mood. Now, speaking of mood, I was very interested in the 1990s. The rubber stamp companies came out with rubber stamps that were trees that were bare for cards, and they would stamp these bare trees onto cards and then emboss them with silver or gold or something like that and they kind of made an art form out of these bare trees and the look of barrenness and even the dry. They'd have stamps that were cactus and dry desert, and you could make them very beautiful. So every season and every type of landscape is from God and can be beautiful depending on how you look at it. But for the most part, I don't look at it if it's not what I want. If I don't get the sunshine, or if I get too much sunshine, those drapes are drawn and I get busy with what I am doing. And of course I like to look out. But now it's very important when you're cleaning. Somebody mentioned vinegar. I do have some earlier posts on vinegar, and it's all important. I'll repeat a little bit of it here, but when you put a detergent in your washer, or even when you're washing dishes, and you turn on the hot water, it's creating a steam, and it's got chemicals in it that are wafting all through your house, and you may wonder, why you can't breathe very well, why the children are always got a red, itchy, rashy skin, or runny noses, or just sore throats. So I switched over a long time ago to vinegar. Now I don't have the vinegar here, but you can get it at the Dollar Tree. It's the white vinegar. You get it at the Dollar Tree. You don't get a salad vinegar or anything fancy. Like I wouldn't get rice vinegar or anything like that. You just go get the industrial vinegar. It's about $1 at the Dollar Tree. It's $2.50 at Walmart for a big container of it. And I just use the lower level of water for a wash, but if you're using the higher level, I'd put half a cup in and then put some in the little rinse dispenser, and the smell will go away after it's all done. And you might have to create a little spot remover with your Dawn liquid detergent and some water, but generally to keep those chemicals out of your house, it has really improved. My eyes used to run all the time, and I don't have that anymore. And also, I think houses these days have enough chemicals inside of the walls and on the floors and just everything. We don't really need that extra boost of chemical. And then also, there's the smell. You know, I've gone for walks in neighborhoods where they're all running their dryers on a Saturday, and I smell the dryer sheets, and I smell the washers, and I smell all over the neighborhood. I don't think that can be that good for the air. And then the other thing is that that you can use the vinegar in a spray bottle. Don't have to dilute it, and wash your mirrors, glasses, anything glass, your windows, anything else. I use it on my glass top stove and in my oven, and it's just wonderful. I love it. And then I keep it down in the bottom cabinet under the sink. I don't have to worry about a baby pulling it out and then accidentally spilling it or drinking it because it's non-toxic. And I could talk to you a lot more about vinegar. You can look it up, you know, the value of using vinegar as a cleaning agent in the home. You can look all that up. You can order little vinegar books. We used to get them off of, get them off of the back of the label of a bottle of vinegar. You could get one. You might have to pay for it, but you could get a little vinegar book, all the things that works. You know, you can even use it on a cotton ball or a cotton swab and clean your cat's ears from mites or things that bother it. If a cat has itchy ears, and you can put it on its fur, and at first, you know, it'll smell bad, but the smell goes away and it's not toxic. So I wanted to really encourage you to use vinegar. Now, I had an injury or something on my hand a few weeks ago, and I found that the only thing that worked was a cotton swab with apple cider vinegar. That's a different kind of vinegar. So I've almost got it cleared up with apple cider vinegar, and I use apple cider vinegar as a toner on my face. And I figure that my skin is so old now, it just doesn't even matter what you use, but I wanted to try it. And I heard that you should probably not put anything on your face that you couldn't eat, so I thought I'll give it a try. And it does keep the rosacea or whatever it is I've got, some kind of eczema, back quite a bit. It does check it. So now I want to talk about two ways to clean house. And we all need, you know, variety and a little change in routine. I think routine is really, really important, because if you have routine, here's the importance of a routine. If, for example, you're used to getting up in the morning and going and getting a cup of tea and going and sitting down and writing your list, and then doing your hair, face, taking care of your appearance, reading something, or maybe you like to wash dishes first thing in the morning, or maybe you like to, there might be something you like to do. If you're used to doing that, I think it's really important, for the reason that if somebody throws you off your emotional stability by saying something or doing something that's upsetting, you've got your little routine, and it kind of grounds you. It kind of stabilizes you. That's really important. However, sometimes we need to vary it a little bit when things are going well. And I say that you can either go through, here's one way, you can go through and tidy up everything in every room, just declutter, straighten up, poof the pillows, do the dishes all, and then do your sweeping last, and if you have to mop, last. Or you can clean every room as you go. For instance, I've got a guest room that I really like, and I like to clean that up and vacuum at the same time. But there are, sometimes we need a little change. And I find if there's going to be someone coming at the spur of the moment and I didn't expect them, I'll go through very quickly and tidy everything up. And then if there's time left just before they get there, then I'll sweep. Because if I stay in one room too long, it's possible I won't get to all the rooms. So that's the one advantage to getting it all cleaned up first and sweeping last, is if there's time you can sweep, but at least the rest of it is clean. So there's just two ways that you can do it. Now, as you go through your house, I think it's really important to take note of, women are very relationship oriented and also some more emotional than others, but we need to take note of the things that we're doing. For instance, I was stacking up a stack of books the other day, and I saw a book I liked, and I thought, it just felt good. It just felt good, and I thought it might be interesting to take note of the things that you do that benefit you the most, that give you the most contentment, and make you feel the most stability, grounded. And for me, it's ironing. I notice a difference in my the feeling of tension in my back, or the feeling of any kind of feeling of wondering what's going on, or just any kind of worry that comes to me, any kind of anxiety, is made easy by ironing. I love the fact that you can iron and make everything look better and hang it up and it feels new. Plus all that wonderful steam. I was watching an old movie the other day, and it was set in the Victorian era, and the characters went to a train station, and there was all that steam billowing around, and I thought, wouldn't that be nice if we had steam instead of gasoline and petrol and fuels and smells of engines all around us. And by the way, I have an interesting book to talk to you about that has some of those principles in it. So now I also thought that you might like to give yourself a little extra. I have to go a little extra in my homemaking, otherwise it just bores me. So I want to stretch myself and go a little extra. And some time ago, some people came to see me, and their children wanted to get under the coffee tables, the end tables, and the dining table. Well, I thought, that's what they do at home, and they wanted to get under them and everything. But after they left, I was just horrified, because I thought, I better get on my hands and knees and look around and see what they're seeing. And under those tables were lots of grime and cobwebs and all kinds of stuff under there. And so I would say, take your bottle of vinegar. This is what I did. I took my bottle of vinegar and paper towels, and I cleaned that all up underneath the tables, underneath the coffee tables. You just don't know what's collecting under there because you don't see it. So this is what I do. And also for me, I can take the paper towels, if I've cleaned with vinegar and I've cleaned stuff like that, the dust bunnies and the things under things in the grime, I can put that in my garden or my compost pile, because it breaks down really nice and helps the earthworms, and so I don't have to worry. I know I'm always reading about save yourself, the landfill and the trash, and use cloth, but I can use those in my gardens. They don't hurt anything, paper towels. And so go through. Another thing that I noticed too, you need to get an older broom. I saved my old broom that's kind of looks like it's had a bite taken out of it, it's kind of gotten slanted. I'll save that broom, and I will use that one because it is a little more oily from using it, and it will be great for going along the edges of the walls at the top where all that stuff collects. Just reach up there and wipe it all down, because I noticed that more. So those are two things that you can do that you might not have noticed that help. You don't have to do that a lot. That only comes, I would only probably do it once in a while, maybe once a year, twice a year, but I keep an eye on it. So I walk through my house regularly looking for things to do. Now I know this couple, And they live in a beautiful manufactured home, and they've made it into such a pretty house. It's just beautiful. But I noticed he is so interesting. Her husband walks around while we are visiting in her living room. He walks around looking for stuff to do. And if he sees something that needs repaired, he gets his repair out. And he's even replaced the wallpaper while I've been sitting there because he saw some tears in the old wallpaper and he wanted it replaced. And he's always looking for something to tinker with. He'll look at the floorboards. He'll go outside and look at the door, and he's always tinkering around trying to make it better. And this is the way we should be at home. This isn't just some place that we are just going to flop around in and just kind of endure the time until something better comes along, because it's not. I'm experienced enough and I'm elderly enough to know there's nothing better going to come along. I have gotten to where I prefer it at home. Anytime you think you're going to have a luxury vacation, you think of the money and you think, oh, I do anyway, for that money I could have had a new couch. And then not only that, but you're sleeping in places other people have slept in, whereas your home is your own, and you're probably the only one that slept in your, maybe it's brand new. And I just think there's so many more advantages to the home. So I think that you need to look around and see what needs to be done. Now, the other day there was a kind of a musty smell in my home, and I realized that it's not always because you're dirty or anything, but it could be because of old things, like sealant. Old sealant in your house can eventually break down the foundation in things that were closed off, and eventually break down and create some of this old smell. So my vinegar has helped me so much. You can actually, if you've had a smoker in your home, or you've had smoke in your home for some reason, you can spray it. Just spray it in the air in your house. It won't damage anything, and it clears smoke out. Isn't that interesting? So now I would like for you to give yourself a gift, and it's the gift of time. If I had time, I'd write a book called The Gift of Time. And this is how you do it. You don't create work for yourself. And I do that all the time. I create work for myself thinking, it's going to take me another hour to put that all back together because I took it all out. And so I try not to move too much at one time. And I know Fly Lady on, this Homemaker helper that you can get in your email, or go check her online, Fly Lady. She says, never undo anything that you can't put back in an hour. And for me, it's the weakness is the bookshelves. I'm thinking, I'm going to clean that bookshelf today, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a floor to ceiling, and I pull it all out. Well, it takes me months to put it back. So now I'm in a better habit. I just pull out that much. I think I'm just going to pull out that much. It's the same with unloading storage boxes, going through them. Open up one, maybe do that much, and at least I'm doing something. And don't unload and get it all messed up and think you're going to have a day or a week that you can put it all back together. I've been doing the same with painting too. I have just been getting my little can of paint and tray out and painting a little section, and when I've had enough and my back starts to bother me, I will put it all away, wash it up and put it all away. And so not getting things out that's taking more than an hour to put back together. And so I wanted to bring that up to you. Give yourself the gift of time. And then the other way of giving yourself the gift of time is to do an excellent job on what you're doing so that you have a little time to enjoy it. It's about 95% hard work and 5% enjoying before it gets all messed up again. But if you do an excellent job, it takes a longer time to get it broken down again. So give yourself a gift by doing an excellent job at what you do so you don't have to redo it. Now I'll give you an example, and one would be cleaning the kitchen drawers. You pull out a drawer, and I take out all the, let's say these are the utensils you use for stirring and serving, for cooking. And I get those all out, clean out the drawer, and shove them all back in. But in no time at all, that looks bad again, and it's collected a little dust. So now what I do is I get it all out. I use my vinegar. I clean it out very good, and I put some kind of a at the Dollar Tree you can get this liner for drawers, and which is really nice. It's a bit textured. It's very nice. And then I put all those utensils in the dishwasher and give them another good wash. They've probably got something on them that's collected. And then that job lasts a lot longer, so I bought myself some time. Plus, I don't have the aggravation of seeing that looking bad all the time. So I do an excellent job one time. It lasts a little bit longer. So then the other thing is to clean as you go. That buys you time too. You don't have to wait for a cleaning day. And then you have a day off. Instead of a cleaning day, you can go somewhere and do something. So clean as you go. And I have watched people that have had this bred into them from the time they were really young. It wasn't in me at all. So I've tried to develop that. Is they will sit somewhere for a while, maybe read or something. But when they get up, they tidy up the chair they were in. They pick up their reading material and their socks, and they wipe the table down that they had their teacup on, and they don't leave a shred of evidence that they were even there. Then they'll go in the kitchen and wash their teacup and put it away. So they clean as you go, and they buy themselves some time. Then if they're called out suddenly, or they have to go, I told you we have a problem with cars because somebody in the family always has an appointment with a car having to be serviced regularly. We like to have everything checked regularly, and we go back, and somebody has to take them or go with them, follow them, and then bring them back till their car is ready. And you're ready to go, and you're not in the middle of a mess if you clean as you go. Now that I know that that's not always possible, but I'm just suggesting it as maybe something you want to try. And then there's the other thing is don't leave a trail behind you. We all know of people in your family, there's evidence that they were there. And if they're old enough, they can pick up as they go, and they cannot leave a trail behind where you can find them. And we used to love to play detective when we were children growing up, and my brothers and sisters and I would see if we could find each other based on what we left behind. And we always used to play that, and we'd leave behind something, drop things on purpose and leave a trail so that we could find out where we were hiding. And so I always say don't leave a trail behind if you don't want any evidence against you that you're the one that messed the place up. So I want to move on to a couple of books here. Now, I know that you probably want to get some work done, but first I'll talk a little bit about homeschooling and how it helped us focus on the good things during the week. A lot of times, churchgoers have a lot of trouble relating what goes on Sunday to the rest of the week. It just doesn't seem to be in harmony with it, And you can be quite depressed by come home from church on Sunday and feel a real letdown because what was happening was happy and good. And then you come home and you're facing the rest of the week and you don't have that. Well, this is where homeschooling made a difference in my life. So if you didn't teach your own children at home, it's not too late. You can actually order these books, and enjoy them. And so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about a math book we had. The first time I had seen a Christian math book, because I thought, well, math is math. How can you mess up math? How can you adulterate math? How can you sully math? It's just facts, isn't it? Well, it's really interesting how dry it is when it doesn't have the creation in it. And one of the first math books I ever read for Christian schools and for the homeschool was starting with the numbers in the first chapter of Genesis. Day 1, day 2, day 3, and 7. And we would study them. The number 1, how many times the number 1 occurs in the Bible, and how many times it was mentioned, and how the number 1 works with you. You are one person, and there's one house you live in, and one this and one that, and just studying this number 1 and how significant it was, one God, and how in the Noah's Ark there was one door and one window. And then we would move on to all the other numbers, and then we have the 7-day week when the 7 days were created. And then at the top of this MASH book, every page was supposed to be for a day. And at the top of every set of problems in the math book, it would have a scripture, and the scripture would have to do with numbers. And it would say things like, the very hairs on your head are numbered. And I was delighted with it, and I thought, this just gives my life a little more dimension during the week. And so then my relationship with my creator began to deepen, and I think the children really appreciated it too. If I ever find, I'm going through the old books, and if I ever find that math book, I'll read it to you. There are all kinds of, it also suggested to read about the children of Israel leaving Egypt and how the Bible had numbered them and then given a total number. It had listed all the tribes and their numbers, and then it had totaled it all up, and it was actually in the Bible, and it suggested that you write down all those numbers, add them up, and see if they came to the same number as was given in the Bible, and sure enough it was, and how important numbers were. And then move on to Proverbs, where it talks about how God hates unjust measures and weights, and how numbers do matter in money, and in value, and in you don't cheat your customer, and you don't pay more than you have to pay, and you don't fool around with the money and make it less than or more than it is. And so this really was, you can falsify numbers. And a lot of people will say, well, math is math, and there's been lots of people that have offered me their old math books from college, and they'll say, well, math is math, but I don't find them to be as fulfilling as the ones that we had. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And now you might want to look at what I'm going to show you. I wanted to talk a little bit about manners first. I've got 15 minutes left. I could probably talk a little bit longer. And so I want to talk about people, because we always talk about people in the end, don't we? So I want to talk about people who spoil the event, spoil the mood, spoil the conversation. People that just have a way of just putting a bit of darkness, a dark cloud on everything. You're not supposed to do that. In relationships, if you care, what I like to do is look at how the future might be. Now, it took me years. I think I was in my 30s or 40s before I figured this out. Is those people that you're upsetting might be future friends. You might need them for something. They might be future church members. They might be someone that you're going to have to deal with in other ways. Maybe they're going to be future customers for your little business. So you want to be careful and be, well, tactful. And so, but sometimes people will come to an event in your home, and they will, and I don't know, maybe you're doing it, I hope not, is they'll come to an event and they'll start complaining about something and being very negative, and we don't do that. And also, there's an old saying, you don't air your dirty laundry in public, and that means you don't come and complain about your parents or that, with other people. You can have good friends, and you can have people that you talk to quietly, but you never spoil an event. So that being said, I want to go on to something that you can get. Remember, I mentioned Dover, and Dover was a place. Not everything in that catalog is good. It was good during the time in the 80s and 90s when we were using it, and not everything in it is good. But I did find they have different publications of Dover, their catalogs, and so what you're interested in might be in one. But anyway, these Eric Sloan books, oh, they're wonderful. This is called Look at the Sky and Tell the Weather by Eric Sloan, and it is full of drawings and illustrations about how you can tell what the weather is. And of course, they're old-fashioned weather. And the children just love this, especially the boys. They tended to gravitate towards this, and just different eras, just different things, and it talks about the different stages of the moon and how it affects the weather. And what I liked about them, they're nice. They have glossy covers, and they're really, really nice. So Eric Sloan, oh man, we have so many of those. And so this one is called I was reading this morning and I just started to chuckle because old-time farm and garden devices and how to make them. Okay, this is not an Eric Sloan. This is by Rolf Koblé. So I'll put both of these on the post so you can see what they are. And this is also from Dover. And you can get these at a fairly reasonable prices, but you could get these at thrift books from people that don't want them anymore. And most people that buy these kind of books are very, very respectful of the books. So when you get them, even if they're used, they look like new. I have noticed this, that people that are interested in things like this really care about these books. And so you won't get them with a stain on them, and you won't get them smelling like smoke or anything like that. So anyway, old-fashioned devices. Now, why would I be interested? I don't know, but I just started flipping through it. I wish I could find, I don't know if I've got time to really find the picture here. I'll read the, it's called Workshop and Tools, the Steel Square, In and About the House, Barns and Stock. That might be what I'm looking for. Poultry and Bees, Garden and Orchard, Field and Wood, Gates and Doors, When We Build, and Worth Knowing. So I'm going to go to the Barns and Stock because this is where I think I saw this interesting. It made me chuckle, it made me laugh. When I was about 16, I was invited to a farm in Tasmania, Australia, where we lived, and it was an Aboriginal family that had a dairy farm, and they had invited me to come, and it was interesting because they always had someone coming and spending the weekend with them. And then I figured it out once I got there, is they like to get up at 6 and you got to help them milk the cows. And they had a milking machine, and it was electric, and you attached all these things and it would milk the cow, and cows were very happy to be milked. But I was looking for the picture and I can't find it here. But this talks about a milking machine before electricity was used to milk cows. And what they did was good grief, I wish I could find it. They made a treadmill for the cow. There it is. I'll try to put that on the post too. They made a treadmill for this cow, and they hooked up all the gadgets to the cow to milk the cow, and then there was a receptacle for the milk to go into the milk can. You know those old-fashioned milk cans? You can get those at Hobby Lobby, but they're new. And everybody's crazy about this farm stuff now. And I think that's nice, preserve where we came from. And so they hooked it all up, and this, I will just have to get a picture, put this picture in for you because I don't think I can show it to you very well. But the cow would walk this treadmill, and there was something there, I think, for the cow to eat, something that the cow liked, and they kept. And as they moved the treadmill, it milked itself. It was so clever. It moved the treadmill, kept the cow healthy and lean, I guess, and kept milking the cow. The cow milked itself. I thought that was so clever, and I couldn't get over it. But all our modern machinery is from these old mechanical things, and the Victorian era was very prolific at doing this. And then the other thing was something interesting. Doesn't look interesting right here, but there's some spikes right here, and then there's some spikes over here. And what you do is you place a log of wood, a big piece of wood here, and it's on those spikes, and then they're all aligned, and the spikes on this part, then you lift this lever over and slam it down on the wood, and it cuts the wood. And I thought that was clever. It's called a wood splitting device. So I'll read a little bit out of it. For splitting a wood, a farmer in eastern Massachusetts uses a device known as shown in the cut. Take a 2 by 8 inch plank and about 3 feet long and an upright of the same material 20 inches long. Set this upright at an angle of 20 degrees and use a brace of the same material. The sharp points shown in the cut are 40 D. Wire nails. Set the wood against these spikes and splitting it. Wood splits more readily in the direction up from the root of the tree than when the blow of the axe is downward. In other words, to split a chunk, place it upside down, contrary to the direction in which it grew. Have you ever watched, well, of course, I grew up watching people split wood, and it always amazed me. They would pick it up and turn it around, turn it upside down. And they kind of knew, these guys kind of knew which way to do it. And I was taught to split wood too. It is much easier to split by slabs than try to cleave through the center. This means to split off pieces near the edge. So I thought that was really interesting. It shows many more. This is a potato sorter and cleaner. These are all things done without electricity or fuel of any kind. I thought you might be interested in that. So now I have 5 more minutes left, and I want to show you another book, Mothers and Daughters at Home by Charlotte Lyons. Now, you might be able to get this at Thrift Books or Abe Books or something like that. But the reason that I got it is I saw it, and it was written in, again, I think it's another one of those 1980s books. Now I forgot to look, but I think it was. And I got it at a thrift store for $2, but it originally sold in Canada for $35. And so I was thrilled to get it, and the copyright is 2000. So anyway, this is why I got it. I love houses, and this was how to make a paper mache doll house. And it shows in here how to make those little picket fences, and how to make the roof, and how to make everything. We never did it, but I just wanted it. This is something that I would sit down and kind of look at and read. I don't do everything, but I like to read about how it's put together. And that makes me, I don't feel anxious to do it. But there are lots of other things you can do here. And so that was one of the ones that I wanted. And now, I think I've reached about the end of what I wanted to say. And I think I've got this motley looking thing of notes. I'm kind of looking it over to make sure that, now I did want to mention something about old age. Because you know, some of us that are more susceptible to wrinkles have discovered something about clothing, and that is if you wear the wrinkled clothing, it seems to bring out the wrinkles in your face. And so I have gone into more of a smooth clothing look, and a lack of nubby texture. What I mean by nubby texture is things that have big texture in it that you can see. It tends to, I think, in the mirror, for me anyway, bring out more of the wrinkles. So if you're interested in, you know, looking youthful and feeling youthful by how you look, you might want to be interested in that. And that's why I love the cottons, and I love smooth things, and not too much stuff on them. So I just wanted to say I'm so glad you came, and I hope that this has been valuable to you. Please leave me a comment. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you got a lot done. Tell me what you got done. Thank you. Goodbye. See you next time.